Good evening, everyone from this region, and good day to the international audience. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for this year-end edition of ISUC Plaza Series 2, the panel discussion entitled Urban Creativity, Sustained Community and Livelihood, organized by Integrated Sustainability and Urban Creativity Center, ISUC, ISUC. From Asia Pacific University of Technology and Innovation, APU. This session is being recorded and will be made available on APU Facebook page and YouTube page following the APU webpage. I'm your host, as well as the moderator of today's panel discussion, Stephen Poon. We are here at the broadcast pleased to welcome our online audience once again, who has just joined us from around the regions. In the few moments, I will introduce an amazing set of panelists here to talk about urban creativity, sustained community livelihood. I can't think of a better set of the folks to speak to that, so welcome to the panelists. Simultaneously, the audience out there can also use the Q&A function in the social media links to submit your question to our speakers. We have a very diverse panel with the different experiences, with also a very diverse expertise. And I'm sure, like me, all of you are looking forward to hearing the views from all of them. Now, we have three panelists, excluding me, and I want to make sure that we get to hear from each of them. A quick background of today's discussion. Social agenda is what unifies our teaching, and research agenda will be shared, understanding of creativity as first and foremost a social cultural practice. We teach creative and innovative as a political instrument, a means to engage societal developments and problems, and as a tool to explore and develop alternatives. A sensitive antenna for social phenomena allow us to act as an agent of change, the contribution of creativity to sustainability and its social, cultural, and natural environment is the most important mainspring for the imagination and the development of the alternative futures. Before we kick off the session, I would like to bring everybody through the first panel topic. In today's fast-paced world, environments and communities are ever-changing. This occurrence is inevitable, but how we react, cope, and ensure that roots of our culture and heritage will not be lost is up to us. Where do we start? We start with sustainability of the community's livelihood. Community livelihood includes many aspects. To some, it is social economic. To some, it is a connection to heritage and culture. The list goes on. What's important is that we all grow with the change, transforming what we have that is all into something relevant that will benefit the community. I would like to introduce our first panelist, Wan Amina Wan Sufian. 19 years of experience in finance, accounting, and multinational corporation in the oil and gas industry. Also taken up roles in human resource, legal and contract management and administration. Currently spearheading PKK Tuanku Bainon, which is Creative Center for Children Malaysia, passionately together with her team. Her journey started in 2015 when her daughter joined creative programs which led her to voluntary work. She then found her passion and started championing the organization called Every Child Deserves an Opportunity. A visionary leader driving the organization to greater heights and setting strategies to ensure continuous growth and development in their objective to ensure disadvantaged children have access to arts education. Her good team building and interpersonal skills shape the work environment positively for the team. Her goal for PKK Tuanku Bino is to build a sustainable foundation to provide opportunities and truly believes sustainability is the key. As continue is how the society will grow and make communities better. Please welcome to our first panelist today, Wan Amina Wan Sufian. Right, we have a little technicality here. So probably we will be back with the first speaker will be slightly later. So we need to settle down this. Okay, never mind. Once we do this, right, can we bring in the second speaker? Okay, before we do so, let us have a little intro about the second speaker. So our second speaker panelist today focus on the core elements of an art therapy session will be presented. Art materials, drawing paper, the therapy room. And the qualified art therapist will be discussed briefly. A simple case study will show how the art therapist invites clients to create artwork through hands touching the artist material. The connection between the nature of the presenting issue and the characteristic of the art material will be explored. Current and past research on the art materials in art therapy in scars. Therefore, art therapists can only rely on their own experience touching paper shows the relationship between the self and other. Through practice, touching reflects the significant relationship experienced by clients that face issues in their life. In order to sustain a therapeutic relationship, the therapist counts on the unspoken elements with the room. So the background of the second panelist, a registered art therapist from Anzcada, which is spelled in ANZCATA, according to the Australian, New Zealand, and Asian Creative Arts Therapists Association, also a registered counselor from LKM, the Malaysian Board of Counselor, a licensed practitioner, founder of the Art Therapy Academy ATA in Malaysia, serving the community for 12 years since she was very young as an independent practitioner, researcher, and international traveler. So having lived and taught in the West, Biting is continually amazed at her perception evolves to influence a person's life. As a devoted Buddhist and a meditator, she is aware that the values of Dharma have constructed her personality and spirit to service the community. Awareness and reflective practice are elements that she would like to promote and cultivate for her professional and her personal life. Here we are. Please welcome Miss Teo Ting.
Hello. Can you all hear me? Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I would like to talk about the psychological sustainability in a therapeutic space through sensory touch by using media in art therapy. Creativity in a city requires that new knowledge and innovative ideas transist permanently through individual, policymaker, or work of collectiveness from the community. Aspects of psychological sustainability through art therapy by discussing art media, space, process, also the therapeutic alliance between the art therapist and the client will be discussed in this session. First of all, I would like to focus on drawing paper. Drawing paper as an art media is important within an art therapy practice. Drawing paper as a container that holds the client's flowing emotion inside the body, and the art media is the tool that expresses the client's emotions. And then we would like to bring in another aspect will be safe therapeutic space. Apart from the media, a therapeutic space is needed. For example, a safe space that allows the client to express their presenting issues with a skilled and compassionate art therapist who understands them. The idea of a therapeutic space such as access to a sink, workspace, storage, art materials, confidentiality, ventilation system, enough lights, and feel welcoming is what the therapist longing for. And then in the therapeutic relationship or in the space, we have the client. By understanding the client's background and presenting issues, drawing paper is provided when the client comes to see the art therapist in the therapy room. Not only needs to understand the client's presenting issue, the therapist needs to have a quick energy scan of the client, whether they are depressive and anxious or angry and frustrated, according to Moon 2016. And then when the client comes into the therapy room, we are going to look into the presenting issue. Most clients will stare at the blank slate of paper and feel anxious and helpless. As described by Waller, the blank piece of paper invites the client to face themselves and assess their own resources. Then put a line or a color on the paper. A lot of time, the clients run out of resources in their life. Facing the blank paper can either invite them to face the emptiness, or they might resist to do anything in the process. And then the media that resonates to the client's presenting issue will be introduced at the beginning of the session. At the later stage of the treatment plan, more challenging media will be suggested. And then for the relationship between the client and the therapist is called therapeutic alliance. And this associates with the drawing paper in the therapy room. The therapist will guide the client to relax and relate the presenting issue with the piece of blank paper. As a skilled art therapist, the nature of the issues needs to be understood. For example, either the client present to be controlling issues or making choices. Note to be taken is the size of drawing paper needs to be considered when work with different clientele who presents different issues. For example, anxious client might feel safe with smaller drawing paper. Also, the weight of paper need to take into account. Too fragile might cause discomfort in the client. Suggesting art materials according to the presenting issues such as soft pastels. Soft pastels might be introduced if the client is not allergic to the powder of the soft pastel. Soft pastels reflect the character of the mystical, and the powder can be spread throughout the paper to create a pervasive feeling that might relate well to the client. And the process is called embodiment. Touch versus touching versus touched. The embodiment process in the art therapy sessions, the client is invited to draw anything on the paper with a soft pastel, then touch the paper with the fingertips. Further invitation is offered to client to touch the whole paper with their palms. And the client potentially feels touched by the process and relates to their inhibited emotions. Touch as an approach avoidance signal. Jones describes touch as the most profound signal to show approach avoidance of the client. The therapist who is observant in the space might use these signals to help the client relate to the client's presenting issues. Bound-based attachment theory will be shown as in the following slides. Why I bring in attachment theory? Because this will have the impact on the therapeutic effects and the therapeutic alliance. There are 4 types of attachment. Secure attachment. The client experienced secure and consistent care from their caregivers. This will help to build a strong therapeutic alliance. Disorganized attachment. The given care was confused and disorganized, leading the client feels uncertain in the therapeutic process. The third one is avoidance attachment. The client might be abused or punished when they were young. They wanted to be helped. At the same time, they refuse to cooperate with the therapist or do not know how to accept the help. The fourth one will be ambivalent attachment. The clients felt uncertain with their caregivers. They might project their past experience on the therapist, for example, emotionally unavailable for them. So not only the touch on the paper in the process, the therapist will touch the client's artwork as well. But according to Moon, underscored the consideration needs to be taken before touching the client's artwork, as the client might feel cared for or interpreted as intrusive. This type of interaction might need to be observed between the client and the art therapist. how the client responds to the touch of artwork from the therapist, and how does the therapist approach the artwork can be symbolized by the client as authoritative or good mother figure in the client's life. A series of artworks will be presented to illustrate the relationship between the media and the sensory touch. Client is invited to scribble of unhappiness on the paper by using soft pastels. Artwork 2, therapists will invite the client to close their eyes and to touch at the same time, feel the lines on the paper, which expressed as unhappiness. Client felt the prickly of the particles from the soft pastel, feeling cold and feel when touched the artwork. And then the therapist will encourage the client to choose a few colors opposite to the cold and the feel. Client chose red, yellow, and orange. Scribble on the paper with fast motion and connected engagement. Client touched the paper slowly with their eye closed and felt the heat from the body. It means the embodiment and therapeutic effect happens in the here and now. When the emotions from artwork number 1 to number 5 is talking about the emotions with the colors and also the touching aspect. And artwork number 6 is going to talk about or present the emotions hold as a shape in the body of the client. Normally, it appears like this. And artwork number 7, we are going to ask the client, is this touch, or we need to reflect back in our head, is this touch connected enough to their body? How does the therapist know the client has expressed all their stored emotions in their body? The client feels relaxed after the session, looking at the artwork. Somehow, the emotions or the whole shapes becoming lighter and disappearing in the space. So Hans Cohen and Finley mentioned that touch is associated with the development of lifetime attachment strategies and relational security. Anzio further explained that the skin is the largest human organ, thus symbolizing the protective container for the self. Touching the paper becomes the extended self, where the client tries to express his or her feelings on the paper. Clemmer suggested the third hand in the art therapy process is helping the client with art techniques or appearing as a good enough mother. Providing art materials to the client might somehow trigger or comfort the client's discomfort, feeling associated with their past experiences. So in conclusion, psychological sustainability through art therapy is potentially worth striving for. To face adversity in life, including within this era of the pandemic, the components during the art therapy session, the therapeutic alliance, the client's response towards the paper, the art media, as well as the space are all aspects that need to be examined. And questions for contemplation will be, how can psychological sustainability contribute to the urban creativity and livelihood sustainability? This might be an issue that we need to ponder further, especially post-pandemic. As a mental health worker, ensuring mental well-being among the community resilient members will potentially contribute to the livelihood sustainability. And these are the references. And then thank you for listening.
Okay, yeah. Hi, I'm back again. So I realized that I was muted earlier on. So and then I also have a little bit of technical error again. Okay, never mind. I just quickly to conclude what Peter just mentioned about this topic earlier on pertaining to art therapies. Creative arts therapies are valuable treatment option which allow people to experience and express themselves through the arts. The foster exploration of creativity and resilience in a supportive environment anchored by the therapeutic relationship, which is Peter has just mentioned that. They offer encouragement, reassurance, potential to adapt, cope, and flourish, and help build and strengthen resilience. Sustainability during the therapy session takes time to build the therapeutic alliance so that the clients can trust the therapist to disclose his or her experience, which might not have been shared with others before, according to Peting said. Therefore, the therapist in the therapy room plays an important role, and other latent media play their roles in the sustaining relationship for the therapy efficiency to happen. Thank you. Thank you so much, Peting. Thanks for this enlightenment. Right now, we go back to the first speaker. I think if the speaker is ready, early on we have a little bit of technicality. Over to you, Juan Amina.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Just to confirm, can you hear me? Oh, okay, hold on. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I will proceed. Okay, so Assalamualaikum. Hello and very good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Dr. Stephen, for the introduction. Firstly, I would like to apologize for the technical issue just now. We'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Dr. Stephen and also Integrated Sustainability and Urban Creativity Center team for choosing me as one of the panel speakers for today's event. My name is Wan Aminah Wan Sufian, and I am the General Manager of PKK, which stands for Pusat Kreatif Kanak-Kanak Tuanku Bainun, or in English, Tuanku Bainun Creative Centre for Children. So before I begin with my session, just a brief through on the concept and definition regarding the topic, livelihoods. Okay, what does it mean by livelihoods? Based on dictionary definition, livelihood definition is a means to living. Livelihood comprises the assets, the activities, and the access of this determine the living gained by the individual of household. And sustainable livelihood is achieved when it can cope with and recover from shock and stresses, maintain or enhance its capabilities and assets while not determining the natural resource base. I'm sure everyone knows about United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. Out of the 17 SDG, SDG 11 is regarding sustainable cities and communities. Quoted from the United Nations, the world's population is constantly increasing. To accommodate everyone, we need to build modern, sustainable cities. For all of us to survive and prosper, we need new, intelligent urban planning that creates safe, affordable, and resilient cities with green and culturally inspiring living conditions. Um, so the United Nations has defined 10 targets for SDG 11. Target 11.3 is inclusive and sustainable urbanization, and target 11.4 protect the world's cultural and natural heritage. Um, so globally, we are behind in increasing the average global share of urban areas, which are mostly located on streets and public space. I would like to touch a bit on the concept of creative city. Creative City was developed by Charles Landry in the late 1980s, which in his view, creativity is a key factor that allows modern cities to react to changes. Being one of it is to discover cultural heritage. So in recent years, creative and cultural activities and cultural industries play a crucial role in supporting urban creativity, such as street art, organizing festivals and art bazaar, transforming abandoned factories and building into art spaces, to name few. And hence, sustainable in community livelihoods is very much needed in order to face the fast pace of urban life endured by the community. So in community, there will be home. I mean, we always link community and home. Interesting a view from David Egwich, a placemaker and founder of Creative Communities International, describes home as a feeling, not a location. Every human has a deep longing to be at nurturing place where he or she can flourish into fullest potential. Hence, arts and culture brings people together. The feeling of belonging can be achieved at a place where a person, society, a community feels comfortable and at ease, feeling harmoniously and feeling connected to the rest of humanity. Next, I would like to share a short video with everyone here to give a glimpse of what we do in PKK.
Art, in all its shapes and sizes, teaches us what it means to be human. It teaches us perspective, humility, confidence, teamwork, and self-fulfillment. In the arts, the lines of separation between people are blurred by the experience of creating something behind the paintbrush or on stage, in the kitchen. We are only identified by our passion and hard work. This is why the arts are for everyone. We at PKK Tuanku Bainun believe that arts education should be available to all children, no matter where you're from, the color of your skin, or the roots of your beliefs. What matters is what you do with the opportunity. Art, in all its shapes and sizes, teaches us what it means to be human. It teaches us perspective, humility, confidence, teamwork, and self-fulfillment. In the arts, the lines of separation between art, in all its shapes and sizes, teaches us what it means to be human.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the short video. As the closing, sorry. Okay, as the closing of the video mentioned, what matters is what we do with the opportunity. Opportunity, that is the key word for my session today. Building communities through opportunities. So what we do in PKK Tuanku Bainun, we are a non-profit organisation under the patronage of Duli Yang Maha Mulia Raja Permaisuri Tuanku Bainun. In 1989, during the Children's Day celebration in National Stadium, our patron reiterated the need to have Children's Creative Centre as mentioned in the Article 13 of the Convention of the Rights of the Child 1989. These rights entitle children to participate in family, school, community activities and to practice social responsibility in accordance with their evolving capacities. In particular, the rights to development and participation. Our center's vision is to have a playground for self-discovery where learning is fun and children can explore and develop their creativity. This is a platform to nurture moral and ethical values where a caring nature is a way of life. So PKK Tuanku Bainun is located in the heart of Kuala Lumpur in Taman Tun, a mid-sized township, a creative center where children and youth can come together to develop their creativity, confidence, realize their self-worth and be empowered to enrich their lives and those around them. In PKK Tuanku Bainun, we provide opportunities and a safe haven where all children and youth from the age 7 to 17 years old, regardless of income, gender, religion, language or ability, can have access to arts education. We provide creative programs to privileged and underprivileged children and youth from shelter homes, orphanages, low-income families, program perumahan rakyat, orang asli community, juvenile delinquent schools, public schools, refugee children as well as children with special needs. What I would like to focus on here is the opportunities to the underprivileged children, as they are often left behind in terms of not having the access to education outside the classroom, both formal and informal education. There are many private extracurriculum programs in the market. Unfortunately, not all parents can afford to enroll their children continuously. For example, 1-year program, some may not even afford to pay for one school holiday program. So this is where PKK provide opportunities to these underprivileged children. Even if the parents are able to afford, there are still many parents who put priority and on enrolling their children for academic education programs such as tuition rather than art education programs. So art education is equally important as academic education. A little bit about myself. I had great memories of my childhood upbringing. I come from a lower tier M40 family background. My dad was a government officer. My mom is a full-time housewife. We always, in PKK, we try to link it back to, because we're a charity, so we always link back to our personal experiences. The opportunity that I had during school time previously, we live in a low-rise government quarter. Hence, we have many friends with similar background. And one thing that I look forward after school is to go home, have lunch, finish my homework, and spend the evening with my friends to play games such as rounders, galah panjang. These are a lot of traditional Malaysia games. Or even like cycling, drama play role. We do some acting, normally involve good cop, thief, good cop and thief, bad guy versus good guy, rule of country, warrior. We even have many classes, Quran or reading, but we try to make use of limited sources that we have to play the games and try to make every game interesting. In that sense, we have many after school activities that don't hurt our parents financially. So imagine if we were given the opportunity to enroll into a proper extracurricular program as well. Imagine if we were to have PKK back then. That would be awesome, from my view. So how community livelihood be improved? Again, we believe arts and culture help to develop people's behavior, positive habits and attitudes. Arts and culture give meaning to people's life. It helps people in a sense of belonging or being part of society. Our main target of community is the children and youth. It's about getting the children and youth people out and about, providing them with challenging, exciting and different experiences in arts and culture to help them learn. As mentioned in the video you watch, art in all its shapes and sizes teaches us what it means to be human. It teaches us perspective, humility, confidence, teamwork, and self-fulfillment. In the arts, the lines of separation between people are blurred by their experience of creating something behind the paintbrush or on stage or behind the kitchen. what can you imagine to do with the limited sources of with the opportunity that we receive. We are only identified by our passion and hard work. This is why at PKK Tuanku Bainun, we believe that arts education is for everyone and should be available to all walks of life. How do we provide these opportunities? We do this through our Alam Creative programs, a non-formal extracurricular program that complements the current school curricula. The Creative World was designed to mobilize creative thinking and innovation in young people through the use of arts, play and imagination as a creative tool, as well as medium of expression. So we offer two types of programs for sponsored kids as well as paid programs. We have 4 pillars of our Alam Creative: performing arts, visual arts, culinary arts, literary arts, and living school. For underprivileged children, we provide various sponsored creative programs based on 4 pillars, and these are some of the pictures. We have traditional instruments like gamelan and angklung, 24 festive drums. We have Malay dances, Malay, Chinese, Indian dance and silat tari. We have also Nusantara Scenic Choir, competitive debate, public speaking, social skills and youth entrepreneurship. In the last 3 years, we had over 1,200 children who went through our Alam Creative 1-year sponsored program, which includes children from shelter homes, orphanages, B40 and M40 low income families, PPR, Orang Asli and special needs children. This is made possible with the support of grants provided by foundations, corporate and individual donors. We also have our own challenges in terms of funding. We hope more organizations and donors in the future appreciate and acknowledge the importance of arts education to children. Again, our initiative is to combat our initiative is to combat the widening gap of access to arts education between the less fortunate and the privileged. This gap results in the underprivileged missing out on the benefits of arts education, which includes empowerment, the development of their creativity, and the growth of their ability to express themselves in multiple ways. These aspects are important in achieving a holistic education wherein students are shaped into a complete and whole individual physically, mentally and spiritually. Every child deserves an opportunity to live their best potential life. That is what we believe. Before I end my session, I invite you to enjoy our next video, which is a testament of what children and youth can achieve by just providing them with an opportunity. As mentioned in our first video, what matters is what you do with the opportunity. This video features youth from our Alam Creative sponsored program performing the 24 festive drums. Thank you and hope all of you enjoy the session and the video.
Understanding the different type of the communities and how they can help the organization is the key to successful community building. With the strong objective, which is PKKTP has indicated by One Amina, firstly, to cultivate the overall skills and values of children and youth through arts education, which as you can see from the videos. Secondly, to provide a platform for students to perform on the big stage. Thirdly, to provide a comprehensive arts experience for underprivileged students. Thank you so much for this enlightenment, Puan Amina, Wan Sufian. Right. In furtherance of the topic, let's look at the sustainability of creativity and well-being. Which one do you want? The ability to generate new and useful ideas or a life with a positive psychological functioning? Hard to choose one. The good news is you can embrace both. Based on the scientific findings, this panel will introduce you a win-win solution to this billion-dollar question. Also will explain the mutually beneficial relationship between creativity and well-being obtained from a series of the psychological research. Yes, but not least, our third panelist, Dr. Tanji Singh, Associate Professor of the Department of Psychology and Counseling at University Tunku Abdul Rahman Utah Kampar campus, Malaysia. Dr. Tan obtained his PhD in psychology from Nanyang Technological University, NTU, Singapore. He is an active researcher in creativity, well-being, psychological measurement development and validation, and singlehood. Jising is an ESCO also member of the Malaysian Psychological Association, PSIMA, and heading the division of positive psychology. As a PSMB certified trainer, he has conducted training on creativity, growth, mindset, and psychological wellness for school, corporates, and the community. Please welcome to our last speaker of today, Dr. Tan Jising.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Poon. So first of all, let me ensure that my voice is clear and loud to all of you. Am I right? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Poon, ISUC, and APU for this opportunity. It is a great honor to have this chance, okay, for me to share with you our findings about creativity and well-being. So I am a psychologist who study human behavior and thought. So therefore, in this evening, I'm going to discuss creativity mainly based on individual perspective. In addition, I am also chairing the divisions of positive psychology. It is one of the divisions under the Malaysian Psychological Associations. So taken together, my sharing will be based on psychological findings. Now, good evening to all of you. Right? I understand that our audience come from different regions, backgrounds, and disciplines. As a result, allow me to begin my part with a brief introduction to positive psychology. Traditionally, psychology focuses on psychological dysfunctions, challenges, and disorders. In other words, most of the time, psychologists work hard to understand how we can help humans to deal with stress, to deal with some mental challenges. Now, positive psychology, play the opposite role. In other words, positive psychology aims to help people to discover and nurture their strengths instead of channeling their efforts into correcting weakness. And today, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you two important strengths of human. Okay, the first one is creativity. Okay, so just now, Puan Amira and Ms. Teo have clearly demonstrated to us about the importance of creativity. Now, kindly take note that creativity has different meaning in different contexts. We have artistic creativity, for example. So in psychology, creativity refers to our ability to develop something new. Okay, the something refers to some ideas or solution. Now, however, please take note that when we say something new, a new ideas, there's another important characteristics of creativity, which is usefulness. Okay, taken together, creativity should consist of two important elements, which is novelty and usefulness. All right, so we are not only required to think out of the box, but our product, our idea, our solution should be useful, okay, to overcome our task at hand. And the importance of creativity, I think, has been given a lot of attentions. Okay, this is because creativity is the cornerstone for innovations, survival of companies, development of a country, just like what Puan Amira shared with us, the creative city. Now, at the same time, another strength that has been giving a lot of attention in the past 2 decades is well-being. If well-being is something new to you, don't worry. Okay, perhaps another terminology, happiness, okay, should sound more familiar to you. Okay, perhaps you are aware of some of the countries that have start emphasizing on happiness index instead of GDP. All right, if I'm not mistaken, our Malaysian government has a similar practice on that. So people nowadays focus more on happiness, positive emotions, or even life satisfactions and well-being. Okay, although there are differences among the terminology that I explained that just now, all right, like happiness, life satisfaction, and well-being. Now, take note that I'm going to use well-being to represent them in these presentations to make our life easier. All right, okay, so briefly speaking, well-being refers to the combinations of feeling good and functioning well. So that means it is not only feeling good, feeling positive, but it also requires us, okay, to have a good functions, to be able to function. Okay, so why is well-being important? All right, so if you are from the industry, perhaps you heard about this finding is like happy workers, okay, their productivity is also higher. And when it comes to ordinary people just like you and me, okay, where we are happy, okay, of course, not only our productivity will increase, but we will also have a more harmonious relationship, right? And for adolescents, being happy is helpful for their development. Okay. Now, in addition, okay, please take note that well-being has different categories or different dimensions. Okay, as this figure shows, there are different types of well-being. We can have this social well-being, which refers to the relationship, having a positive relationship with someone. For example, the bonding between you and your parents or your siblings or your friends. Now, we can also have this environmental well-being, right? So that means to what extent the design or the structures of the environment can boost up our well-being. And not to mention the physical well-being, that means how healthy we are. Okay, of course, in psychology, we focus more on psychological well-being, which indicates that to what extent we find our life is meaningful. Okay, we sense that we have the autonomy to in charge of our life. All right. So after hearing from me, okay, I believe you agree with me that both creativity and well-being are equally important to us. All right. So here comes to the $1,000,000 questions. Okay, which one that you would like to choose, creativity or well-being? All right. I believe these questions is difficult to most of us. Okay, because as I have shared with you, both of them are equally important and both of them are equally beneficial to us. All right. So it is definitely difficult, if not impossible, for us to choose one from the two. But the good news, okay, is we don't have to bother with the selections. Right? So in the remaining about 10 minutes, I'm going to share with you, okay, or to show you some empirical evidence that actually we can embrace both of them at the same time. All right. So ladies and gentlemen, okay, fasten your seatbelt and come with me to take a look why I say so. All right. Now, as a psychologist, okay, we love to, okay, start our explanations from a theory. Okay. So therefore, let me provide you the theoretical perspective or explanations why there is a relationship between creativity and well-being. Okay. So first of all, I would like to introduce you this famous theory called Broughton and Beale theory of positive emotions. Okay, so simply put, okay, let me simplify it. Okay, so this theory asserts that when we are experiencing positive emotions, say for example, when you are happy, right, our brain receives a signal saying that, all right, we are now safe, we are okay, we are doing good. And these signals, okay, will encourage us, okay, to explore more information. As a result, this will broaden our mental abilities. As a result, we are more likely to have some unusual thoughts. All right. So when our mental ability is broadened, then we will have a higher chance, all right, to utilize the broadened mental abilities to create, to do something. All right. Say for example, okay, when I feel good, okay, I think that it is safe for me to explore, okay, to expand my social network, and as a result, I will be more likely to make new friends, okay, and which in turn will increase my social network. So this is the key idea of the Broughton and Beale theory. Okay, so next, okay, let me show you some empirical evidence. All right, because when I introduce you this Broughton and Beale theory, you may say that, hey, Chiseng, theory is a theory. Can you show me some evidence? All right, of course. Okay, next I'm going to show you some empirical evidence. All right, so I conducted a study, okay, me and my supervisor, we conducted a study to examine, okay, the role of positive mood in creativity. And we found that when individuals are in positive mood, okay, they tend to be more creative. Okay, so how we identify it is, okay, we have two groups, okay, strictly speaking, three groups. Okay, so the first group, we show them some comedies, okay, some funny movies, okay, to make them feel positive. Right. The second group, okay, they watch some sad movie, okay, to make them feel negative, while the last group watch some neutral video clips, okay, which did not induce any feeling at all. All right. So as you can see from the figures here, all right, those in the positive mood group, that means those who watch the comedy, okay, they tend to give more answers to our questions. Okay, we ask them, hey, please generate as many use as possible for a chair or a food. All right, so you can tell from the figure that those in the positive mood group, okay, they tend to generate more answers and more diverse answer than the other two groups. So taken together, the results demonstrate that when we feel positive, we can be more creative, right? Okay, so the answers give us a clear conclusion. It's like when we feel good, when we feel positive, we can be more creative. All right, so far I only focus on one of the directions of the relationship. So maybe you have a question, then what about the other side, the opposite side? Okay, so whether creativity can enhance our happiness? If yes, how? All right, so we hear you, okay, we understand your inquiries. So therefore, I also conducted these studies, okay, which published in 2019. Okay, so this study was funded by the Malaysians of Higher Education, FRGS, Okay, in these studies, or in this project, we conducted 2 studies that involve undergraduate students and secondary school students. Right. So our key findings, okay, is we found that people who reported a higher level of creativity, they also feel happier. Right. And of course, okay, we go beyond, okay, to test the relationship. Specifically, we also provide an explanations to the relationship. Okay, in other words, we also explain why creativity is beneficial to happiness, right? So in particular, we found that when someone self-reported that he or she is creative, the individual also reported a higher problem-solving ability. Okay, and when the individuals are good at solving problem, you can imagine that their stress level will be lower. And when someone has a lower level of stress, of course, they will also have a higher level of happiness. All right. So in this study, we demonstrate the opposite directions of the relationship. All right. So that means creativity is also beneficial to our happiness, and the potential process could be due to creative people. They have a better ability to solve problems, and as a result, they experience lower level of stress. All right. So far, okay, the 2 studies seems to suggest that hey, creativity and happiness or well-being that has a reciprocal relationship. Right. But you know, okay, psychologists are so skeptical, okay, because the result that I share with you so far, okay, are based on the self-report or survey. All right. So we have no idea whether or not creativity really has a role in happiness. Okay. So in recent published studies, okay, my undergraduate student and I, okay, we tackled these questions, okay, by using both survey and experimental design. Okay. So what we found that is, okay, in study 1, we replicate the past studies, the past finding. We found that people who self-reported high level of creativity, they also reported a higher level of subjective well-being. Okay, even after we excluded the effect of stress level. Okay, and more importantly, we observed the same pattern not only on undergraduate but also in a sample of working adults. So the results indicate that hey, the relationship is applicable to the 2 different populations. Okay, more importantly, we conduct an experiment. All right, so for undergraduates who have been assigned to the experimental group, they were instructed to recall 3 creative activities in the past. Right. The reason we ask them to recall is we want to induce their creativity, okay, to make them feel that they are creative, to convince them that they are creative. And after that, okay, we ask them to report, okay, how happy you are, how satisfied you are with your life. Okay, so our analysis shows that individuals in the treatment group, that means those who are instructed to recall creative activities, they also reported a higher level of well-being. All right, so once again, the result clearly demonstrate that creativity is able to enhance our subjective well-being. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, here is the take-home message for you. All right, both well-being and creativity are important to us. Okay, these 2 strengths are important to us. Okay, not only to our performance, but also our development. All right, so the good news here is you don't have to choose one of them. You can embrace both of them because we found that there is a reciprocal relationship between well-being and creativity. All right, so in other words, when you feel happy, okay, you tend to be more creative. And when you demonstrate a high level of creativity, you also feel happier. Now, of course, there are more and more findings I can share with you to talk about the underlying reasons. But of course, now due to the time constraint, I think I will stop here. Okay, so in case, okay, if you are interested in positive psychology, feel free to check out our division Facebook. Okay, we will share the latest information about positive psychology in Malaysia and also international. All right. Okay. So if you have further questions for me, okay, feel free to contact me. Okay. Yeah. You can also find me on the Facebook. All right. So I guess that's all for my sharing. Thank you. And then I will hand it over to Dr. Poon. Okay. Hi, Dr. Poon. Hi, Dr.
Hi
Poon. I
there.
think you're muted.
Okay, thank you. This is quite often happen to me. Right. Okay. Creativity is a critical element of sustainable development, according to what Chisen just said. In the current narrative, it is described through social identity by identifying the main factors that shape the background of creativity. We conclude that health, maturity, and positive attitudes of cultural change, as well as the social stability, the environmental care, and finally the incentives, the material, the non-material, shape the human creative dynamism. We argue that positive psychology will realize its most significant and far-reaching impact when it is applied to sustainability effort locally, nationally, and internationally. Such application may accelerate shift in the attitudes, policy, practice, and behavior. Thank you very much, Dr. Tan Chi Seng. Right, now let's turn to the open discussion. Great. To all panelists here, the sustainable livelihoods approach is a way of thinking about the objectives, scopes, and priorities for development activities. It is based on the evolving thinking about the way the poor and vulnerable live their lives, and the importance of the policies and the institution. Um, one Amina has mentioned that it helps formulate development activities that are people-centered, responsive and participatory, multi-level, conducted in partnership with the public and private sectors, dynamic, and the last one is important, is sustainable. So a livelihood strategy is an organized set of lifestyle choice, goals, and values and activities influenced by biophysical, political, legal, economic, social, cultural, and psychological components. Write the questions here to all. What sort of concepts and analysis can help us, the community, meet this challenge better? Anyone want to go first? Can we start from Amina? Let's start from you.
Yeah, okay, I'll start. Yeah, I'll start. Okay, I think in terms of the livelihood strategy concept that we what the challenges that we have at this moment that we can make it better. It will be more into arts education. I would probably would say that the arts education is not viewed as important as academic education. So I think in terms of strategy in the future, maybe we can in terms of the bettering of the art education, maybe we can integrate the arts education into the learning subjects in school. I mean, there's some, not to say research, some information that I did review in terms of integrating the arts education. It doesn't seem not like it, but the arts do play a big role in developing children's mathematical skills, you know, as they learn how to assess measurements, numbers manipulation, and also songs. From songs, they could learn to notice the patterns, the geometric relationships, and also they were more creative. So I think in terms of strategy, I would probably go to that angle, you know, to put more focus, not to say art academic education is not important. Everyone is very, very, very talented and background. I mean, the audience here are all basically from the uni, professor and doctor. What I'm saying is that to have the arts education to be equally important as academic education.
Okay, thank you. Amina, I think you're referring to some of the so-called we can really look at this art education from the different perspective. Can be in the very academic sense, and also can be in the technical sense as well. So it really depends on how you position that. Definitely, this is the beauty of this art education today. It's kind of hybrid. It's very emergent as well. In the meantime, so Beating. So what do you think? What is your take about this? What sort of concepts of analysis can help us, the community, meet this challenge better?
I think we probably need to have more collaborative partner research in terms of academy setting as well as the practitioner. I think we have quite a bit of gap between practitioner knowledge and academic knowledge. So this
Would you
is
like to?
something
Would you
that,
like to? Yeah.
okay, like for example, like art
Yeah.
therapy education, we work in the real world. We practice in the real world. Theoretically, we learn all the theories and how to do it. But when we face the real person in front of us, that's another set of the story. So these two parties might need to join the effort to work together to contribute to the, I think, the sustainability, psychological sustainability, or even for the livelihood strategy. I think this is something we might need to head towards this direction. I think probably Dr. Tan have better opinion in this sense.
Okay, Chiseng, what do you think?
I strongly agree with Ms. Teo. Okay, that there's always a gap between the academic and the practitioners, and therefore I agree that definitely these two parties should sit down and work together. All right, because like Ms. Teo emphasized, theory is theory. Okay, but when it comes to real life, when we are dealing with human, there are a lot of unexpected things happen, and also we can learn from our clients, okay, to modify or to further enhance the theory that we have now. Theory is not fixed, it should be a dynamic. Okay, that means we should continue to enhance it by learning the new informations from our client, because the environment change, people change, the culture will also influence us. So therefore, we need to modify the theory to fit us. At the same time, I also agree with Puan Amira about the importance of educations, because we conducted a study to interview parents, including fathers and mothers from Malay, Chinese, and Indians. And we found that actually they don't really have clear ideas about what creativity is. Okay, they are familiar with these terms, but they don't have a concrete idea about creativity. So in this case, I would say that this is not a good sign, because they do not know how they can enhance their children's creativity if they don't have a clear definitions of idea about creativity. So therefore, I will strongly agree with Puan Amira that education plays an important role. And of course, we are glad to see that, I think, from our young generation, they start to have this idea. They have more understanding about creativity. So this is the thing I would say is a positive sign for our future generations. But it takes time now, okay? Because like maybe start from my generations, then to my children's, it takes time for our Malaysians to further enhance our creativity. Okay, thank you, Dr. Put.
Okay, thanks, Jiseng. Also, I'd like to highlight that as well. I think apart from the major ethnic origin we have, the Malay, the Chinese, and the Indian, I think we also need to think of others community as well. So those are the other community, especially the minority, especially those are the indigenous group as well. I think it can be a very different approach, I believe. So sometimes I think we are a little bit more bias. We always thinking about these three major ethnic origins. So everything is all about these three. I think we have others as well. That's the beauty being in Malaysia. Actually, I think we know that. So we can think of so many all different ethnic origin can be enlightened the way how we approach them as well. In the meantime, I believe the psychological approach and also in terms of counseling, that they have a lot to do for their part. Okay. To take it further from what I just asked about the concept of the analysis, how to help us, what are the perspective and vision of a sustainable livelihood framework be used to understand according to your practice? Anyone want to go first, or should I just go with the order again? Anyone, if you feel free, if you think that you have something you just want to bounce in, please do so. Beating, let's start from you.
You throw me into the hot seat. Okay. Yeah, I think the framework about sustainable livelihood, we need to focus on the capacity as well as the vulnerability that we are working on in the community. Like for example, the vulnerability in my job will be the client who suffer from psychological problems. Therefore, and then the capacity that we have properly is the education, the art education that we have, and as well as the variety or the kind of like environment, cultural richness that we have to help us to enhance our work, where we can lead to a more sustainable psychological livelihood in a way.
Okay, Jiseng, what do you think? How do you respond to that?
Okay, my perspective is 1 + 1 is greater than 2. So that means even though we focus on individual creativity, but we believe that when creative peoples are gathered together, put them together, okay, the output is greater. Okay, so therefore, if you ask me how to reach the ultimate goal to have a sustainable livelihood or urban creativity, I would say that we start from individual. Of course, okay, there are some factors, okay, that may hinder this process. That one, I think, is a little bit out of topic. I'm not going to talk about that, okay. So my perspective is let's focus on individual creativity, and just like what Mr. mentioned just now, is like we have to communicate, okay, because just now I said that 1 + 1, but if we cannot put them together, they cannot communicate, then we only have two independent creative individuals that do not work together. Therefore, we cannot maximize the output. All right. So when we have the talent, okay, we also need to have an environment that facilitate the communications, that facilitate collaborations, and also some channels. All right. So my thought is like when we focus on educating the individuals, the environment, like the design, okay, of the environment, whether it can further maximize the opportunity for communications, for people to know each other, to make new friends. I would say these are also important. All right. Thank you, Dr. Put.
Thank you, Jiseng, for this little sharing here. And I think from the social workers' point of view, Amina, you have a different take, I believe so. So what's your take?
Yeah. For me, in terms of vulnerability, will definitely be the underprivileged children. And then in terms of the structures, I will go into again like the educations and the institutions, the corporates, the private sectors, to put a priority on arts, creativity, because they can influence the audience. So my intake will be to have the vulnerability, which is the underprivileged children, to achieve the well-being, not just in terms of education, but also in terms of the livelihood. To have access to programs and classes that are being accessed by underprivileged children.
Dr. Poon, can I add one more?
Yeah, go ahead, please. Feel free to do so. Yes, that's the whole point. We're having this panel discussion here today. Yeah,
I think
go
we
ahead,
need
please.
to channel the capacity in the society to help the vulnerable group. That's what I think after listening to Dr. Tan and Puan Amina, I think this is something we need to focus on, access to or focus on our capacity in the society and channel to help those who need our help, especially the vulnerable group or even disadvantaged group or minority group, which we
Yeah,
might
exactly.
we might have neglected.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just addressed earlier on. We are looking at the larger picture instead of only pointing only particular this which is the main group, right? Okay, Amina, I'd like to continue with you. Based upon your presentation, and also those are the topic you share with the audience today, I find that it's really touch also the things what you involve, and this is something coming to my mind about the community. Community is a beautiful thing. I think we know that the overflow of friendships and marriages and religions, towns, tradition, it adds joy to life. But community is also broken by imperfect people. So it can be difficult to build and hard to find. I often return to the few questions that I cannot answer myself now, so I ask you. Right, Amina. Okay, right. How does a different context change the way you interact with the youth and children's communities?
Okay. Okay. For you will need to have, okay, from my view, it's not just empathy. Whatever the different approach that we have taken so far is that we still prefer to treat all children the same, even though they have some disadvantages, but in the classroom we would treat children as if we were to treat if we were to conduct example classes for the paid programs. We do want them to have the benefit of having fair treatment, but of course we do understand some of them will not have the skills or the advantages. Example, if we were to have classes, our culinary classes, some of the children may from paid classes would definitely know how to handle equipment, because they have example a lot of equipments at home, you know, that they can bake cakes and oven and everything. But with children from underprivileged, they may not have oven at home. They just have stove to, you know, basic cooking. So we do have to take into consideration what items, what areas that they are lack of. So when we build the programs, we will cater for their needs. So there will be different approach. In terms of technology wise, it's also the same. I mean, during pandemic, we can't have our face-to-face classes anymore. Most of our classes were conducted online. So there will be some disadvantages. There will be disadvantages with children from the vulnerable groups and from the underprivileged groups. So the way that we deal with them will be slightly different, whereby we have to give more attention and focus to them.
Of course, there's another which is a scenario happen also. What does the community look like for those who are far from home, especially you're working with those are the foreign kids and all. So how do they build community when the surrounding seems foreign?
Okay, we have students from homes whereby they do have families basically, but they were put in homes due to certain reasons. But we also have students coming from homes. Okay, so when they come to PKK, to our center, we try to instill the feeling of home, whereby they are comfortable with themselves. then they can explore, they can experience new things. And when they go back to their home, their house basically, their location, they can apply what they learn in PKK to their home. We have some of the examples that they may not, okay, they may have a very simple example. Of course, they have kitchen at home, but sometimes they do not know um, um, how to how to say, they do not, they did not get the opportunity to experience in the kitchen. So when they come to our studios, to our centers, they got the opportunity. Then they, when they go back to their house, their home, and they can apply, and the parents will be very happy. They even have, we even have a student, when they when he got back to his home, he, not to say home, is actually a center. He actually cook, for example, like 200 students there. I assume it's about 200 students, a quite number of students there. So something that they apply in our center, that they can, that they learn from our center, that they can apply back at home. So when they come to PKK, they have that home feeling which they can bring back to their home location.
Okay, great. I think those are the example of vibrant, like what you just mentioned, how to drive the communities, and also how you emulated them. I think is really rewarding. Okay, now we're gonna move to Piting. Right. I had something which is coming to my mind after your presentation. So yes, we're going to focus on the art therapy now. Art therapy is frequently offered to children and adolescents with the psychosocial problems. I think we understand that, and also you have addressed this frequently, which is during the presentation. Art therapy is an experiential form of the treatment in which the use of the art materials, which is you have addressed that. The process of the creation in the present and guidance of an art therapist and the resulting artwork are assumed to contribute to the reduction of psychosocial problem. Okay, the question here is which art therapeutic elements support positive outcomes in psychosocial problems of children and adolescents?
I think first of all, we need to address one aspect is art therapy. There are two types of art therapy. One is expressive art therapies, mainly cover, like what Puan Amina have done, the dance, music, play, even painting. But my work mainly focus on visual art. Therefore, I focus on the drawing paper, where is the space or the paper that contain the client's emotions. And as I mentioned before, paper is like an extended self. When the client can reach out or can face the blankness of the paper, they are able to try to put some of their feelings or their, emotional, behavioral, or even social problems on the paper. And through that process, we guide them with questions by looking at their artwork. So I think the elements is between the therapeutic alliance between the client and the client. That is the first most important thing when work with children as well as adolescent. But the problem is in this process, we have someone who might support or influence the process, which will be their significant others or their caregivers. So this is one aspect that we need to take into consideration. So in order to change the client's emotional, behavioral, or even social problems, we need to slowly guide them. Not only we need to empathize them or understand their situation, at the same time, we might need to work in a systematic context, which is their family or their social context, and also where they come from in a way. So this is something that we might need to look into it, like from a bigger pictures and then down to why they have this problem, so that we can address it from a higher level, or even the problems that they face at home and then slowly work on the individual level. So there are many aspects that we need to address before we can actually really solve the psychosocial problems of the children and adolescents. Of course, art making can be a very positive approach to help children and adolescents, because children, they don't have enough vocabulary to express their pain or even their emotions. And also, adolescents use the word or their voice to hold their power to fight with whoever they. Yes. Yeah. So this is another aspect that's why when come to counseling or verbal therapy, we find it difficult to talk to adolescents because they hold their power by not talking. So art can be a very interesting approach, somehow crack the tension between the therapist and the client so that we can help them to address their issue. How about you just put a line and then we can talk about this line. And I have one interesting client. He was just draw a line, and then his mother sent him to me, and then I said, okay, tell me this line. Okay, where is this line heading to? So this is probably the questions that we need to ask during the therapy session. It's not like looking at the artwork and then we read the artwork and then we assess the psychological, like status of the client. So we need to prompt them, related questions according to their presenting issues. And then they said, and then the client is like, in a way, somehow help him to open up. He said, this line heading to my friend's house. And this actually break through the whole things, because like for me, some people will say, line, so what? Now how? Where to go? What to do next? So, and then, okay, then you want to go to your friend's house. How's the house look like? Is that a double story? Kampong house, high-rising house, all these kind of things. And then somehow it helps the client to draw the pictures on the paper. And slowly I understand why the client felt like so depressed at home or fight with his mom is because he was restrained at home. He's not allowed to go out. So this is something that a positive, like information that can help to bridge the relationship between the client and the mom. And so that we can, although like confidential is part of our like somehow the fundamental things that we need to hold. And we need to, like be careful how we word the information that we collect from the therapy session to the parents, so that the client don't feel that we are betraying them. So these are the aspects that we need to consider. And I think that's all for now. I hope, Puan Amina.
It's good actually. Yeah, good. Thanks for the sharing. And it's also reminded me a few years back, I have involved a few art therapy workshop. So that was a good experience. It was, and I also come from the background of art and design. So it's quite a intrigue for me, especially it come to like fully expressive into the workshop, like what I've involved. So there's a lot of things when you do put it in, which is in line form, shape, whatever, right? There's always the reason behind that, because there's something, because in our mind we try to put it in, translate it into the in the visible form. But in that visible form, right, usually, right, it can be meaningless or can be meaningful. But I think it's not the case here. I think the case here is, right, what can you translate from what is from your mind? So I think that there's a lot of things. Now I understood what you mean by some of the people sometimes, right? Why they draw a line for, they can explain in a different way. It really depends on the interpretation, really. So because everyone has a different perception to look at whatever we see.
And
okay, I think
that's the beauty of art therapy as well.
Yeah.
We empower the client to talk about their artwork instead of we put our interpretation on
Exactly.
the artwork. Although
Exactly.
we might have some assumption or, like a educational guess. However, we suspend all this assumption behind our head and guide the client through like prompting the questions to them so that they can answer with their own words and own understanding. So it's very interesting. And
Great.
because, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
how my art therapy engagement generate not only reflection on one's own life, but also an ability, in some sense, to see the world differently.
Yeah, Dr. Stefan, this is the questions that I like the most. Yeah, because art therapy engagement really, like there are a lot of benefits. Some still need a lot of evidence, based research, but some of them I can see that throughout the years there are so many benefits for those who engage in art therapy. The first one will be we look at the problems. We are not thinking and talking about the problems. This is the most beautiful part of the art therapy. The second one is we don't store the problems as a thought in our head. We externalize it on the paper, and then it somehow empty the mind so that we can have a clearer, mindset to think of certain thing or make the decision. And then the third thing will be like this will be the highest, probably the best that I like the most. The benefit of art therapy engagement will be seeing the artwork as it is without putting our own interpretation on the client's artwork. We allow the client or the painters to talk. What is that mean to them? In the process, we also empowering them to speak their own mind, to be, trust their feelings, and also be autonomous at the same time. So this is the beauty of the art therapy engagement. And also, I think Dr. Tan talked about that as well. It's about the creativity, helps, problem solving. And then we can see the artwork from different perspective. And because sometimes our mind or our brain try to focus into one small thing and we drown into it. However, by putting it on the paper, we can see it from different perspective, and this might help us to see different things. For example, I have a client had relationship with the mother, and then she drew her mom on top of the artwork of the paper, and then she was underneath the paper, and we turned around the paper. Suddenly she was above of the mother. So the shifting empower her. Suddenly her face just lift up. She felt like I can actually be on top of my mother. This is just an example. But however, how can we work the balance, the power struggles between the mom and the daughter? This is something still need to work on. However, it's very interesting to see how the artwork, change of the anchor can change the perspective or feeling of the client. So this is something I think we should encourage more of art therapy and engagement in the community.
Exactly, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Thanks for this sharing. This was a really wonderful with your thought behind that, and I really appreciate it. Okay, you mentioned about Ji Sing. I think I have something for Ji Sing now. Okay, right, Ji Sing. In the web of life, we are all interconnected. This connectivity extends beyond the human domain and towards systems much larger than us. This connectivity with non-human life is innate, and deepening that connection to nature as positive influences on our well-being and optimal functioning. So whether looking at nature through a window or being fully immersed, wild spaces are good for our mental and physical health. Our livelihood to engage in ecological behaviors and our personal community resilience and well-being. So why do people become involved in creative processes, and under what stimulus does this occur?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Poon. Okay. In psychology, there's a sub area called environmental psychology, and in this sub field of psychology, researchers have consistently found that exposure to nature is beneficial to individuals' well-being and mental health. Okay, the researchers they hypothesize that this is because we are programmed to nature, right? Because think about our ancestors, okay, how they survive and they live. But now we are living in an environment now with the walls, okay, we are covered by the walls with a little exposure to the nature, right? So to address your questions, okay, whether or not exposure to nature is beneficial, my answer is definitely yes. So when talk about the sustainable environment or community, right, I think the developers or the government or the policymakers really have to take into considerations. Okay. However, I'm quite optimistic with this issue because I try to compare, okay, the development in the past and the recent. Okay, so in the recent developments, I can see, okay, the developer they start paying attention to this issue. Okay, they will increase the green elements, right? They will also pay attention to some issues like how to enhance the exposures. Right. So therefore, even though in the past we are not so good at it, but I would say that in the futures we are going to have more and more better design. Okay, I believe this is thanks to the educations. All right. So maybe the interior design or the developer that heard about the needs of the users. All right. So you can see some of the newly open shopping mall. You can also see that the design actually becomes more human friendly, right? Maybe they also increase, make it more environmental friendly, increase the green elements. So these are the things I'm happy to see, okay, that can boost our well-being. Yeah. All right.
Okay, thank
Dr.
you. Thank you, Chiseng. Actually, this is exactly I was in my mind. I was thinking about this environmental psychology. This is very much appealing for the people who dealing with spatial, interior architecture, interior design. Yes, indeed, there's a lot of all this kind of human-centric principle to be practiced, into our built environment nowadays. So therefore, why it become a significance important, especially come to the psychological approach. Okay, does creativity possess sustainable characteristic in the sense that it is shaped by permanent cultural, by nature influences, or is it a random phenomenon dependent on accidental circumstances?
This is a very good question, Dr. Poon. Okay, uh, it has been a myth, okay, for people to think about creativity. They would think that creativity is a gift, so that means whether I'm inborn with this gift or not. All right. So when I deliver the creativity talk, I always check with the audience that how creative do you think you are? All right. So maybe just about 15 to 20% of the audience they respond that okay, they think that they are creative. Right. So this indicates that until now, even though our educational level has significantly improved than the past generations, but people will still have this mindset or the belief that I am not creative. Okay. I attribute this issue to a reason is like how we frame creativity. For example, when we talk about creativity, first come to our minds is those brilliant inventions, okay, or the Nobel laureate. Okay, but this is not the case, okay, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, there are different levels and different types of creativity. For example, researchers have identified at least 4 levels of creativity. Okay, starting from the mini creativities, that means individual creativity, to those creativity that bring a significant change to the whole world. All right. So, for example, the highest one, of course, referring to the breakthrough, the significant breakthrough, or the Nobel laureate achievement. But don't forget, okay, try, when individuals, okay, we try something new. Like for example, Mr. mentioned about the artwork. When we draw something, express ourselves, this can be also be considered as a creativity. Unfortunately, majority of us don't think that this is a creativity. Okay, like what Amina mentioned that the child, okay, start learning cooking, and then now he or she is managed to cook for 200 people. Okay, so to others maybe that hey, cooking only is not a big deal, what? But to the individual, this is a breakthrough for him or her. So we have to acknowledge and appreciate it. To believe that I can be creative in cooking. All right. So please do not just think that creativity is limited to now some new technology, some new product. This is not the case. Okay. As long as uh, you come out from your comfort zone, you make some even just a minor achievement, something new to you, that is considered creativity. Please appreciate it, embrace it, and go further with it.
Okay, thank you, Jising, for this encouragement. Actually, yes, believe in creativity. You know that we are very creative. That's the reason we all here today. Okay. Okay. Good. Great. Okay. I think we leave a little moment to look at the audience questions today. We have received some registration questions. Quite a few questions here today. Okay, let's take a look at that. So that is the first question, especially addressed to Piting and Jiseng. How to balance the implementation of scientific research and artistic practices in a sustainable environment. So anyone want to go first, Jiseng or Piting?
Okay, since Dr. Tan dropped out and drop the line, and probably I would like to talk about from the perspective as an art practitioner. Normally we will have bias, about artists, about scientists. We think that they are very structured, rational, and organized, and very, like very left-headed. So I think before that, we need to address or we need to admit that we have this kind of stereotypical biases with these two group of people. Either they look at artists as too out of box, rebellious, violent, all this kind of, like looking from their perspective towards art practitioner. And art practitioner might look at them with different mindset. So this is something we might need to look into it, and we might need to be aware of the biases that we have towards each other. And then in order to gain the balance, I think the first thing is we need to support each other. Science need art. Art needs science to support,
Agree.
yeah,
Thank
in
you.
order to have the rigorous research, to give art, a scientific voice. And also science need a little bit of touch of humanity. Touch is somehow is very aspect. So this is something we might need to work together, collaborate together, and as Dr. Tan mentioned as well, two independent individuals need to come together to talk continuously and constantly, to have the mutual understanding what I expect from the science and what science expect from art. Then we can bridge, and probably we can have a beautiful collaboration and create a sustainable environment which everyone will enjoy and live in. So this is,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you. That was it's also I was thinking about it as well. So, what about you, Jiseng? How do you respond to this question from the audience?
Well, basically, I think Mr. has already indicated the most important part. So I just add on one point. To me, I don't think that it is necessary to balance, because like what Mr. mentioned, we should collaborate and work together, but not to balance it. So to me, it's like they are the same things, but at the both sides of the same things. All right. So just depend on how we look at it. But of course, when we talk about sustainable environment, sometimes it also depends on the situations. Like for example, when we want to fight with the pandemic, then of course maybe we have to give more emphasis to the scientific research. But overall speaking, it's okay if we just refer to the general sustainable environment. I strongly agree with Ms. Teo that we need both, okay, in a balanced way, in an equal ways, because they will influence each others.
Yes, I agree with Dr. Tan as well. We do need actually strive for balance. I think we probably need to work together to achieve the environmental sustainability. This is what we might need to strive for.
Yes, agree. And also, it really depends on the value, especially the West and the East. They have a different value. If you come to this kind of collaboration, whether is it striking a balance, is it really working together to compromise to each other? So it's really different. And of course, if you're working in overseas, right, especially in the European continent, they have a different way of how they approach, which is how the art and science emerge together. Of course, there's a totally different value if you come to Asia Pacific region.
Yeah, Dr. Pon. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like the word that you use, compromise. A lot of time in reality, we compromise a lot. Either
Yeah,
science compromise to art or art compromise
exactly.
to science.
This is what I exactly trying to emphasize the value, because the West and the East is really different. Because how the way we see things. And also, I spent a lot of time in the West when I was young, so I know how the people approach certain things, and also when I come back here, and also how the way people perceive things differently as well. So this is not about right or wrong. It's just the
Yes.
way how they approach differently. So there's a reason we need to understand what is the cultural references, how do we perceive, how can we take it further from wherever which is what we have. Right. There's a question for Amina here. Okay, the question for Amina: does exposure to foreign culture influence creativity? If yes, how? Any examples?
Okay, from my view, the foreign culture doesn't have to be like foreign outside Malaysia. Malaysia, we have multicultural experiences, and we have multicultural races. Hence, I will look from that point of view. Mostly because under our underprivileged children is without experience abroad. So basically, they are mainly in Malaysia. What I can relate is that from my view, is definitely would definitely enhance their creativity, in terms of communicate and also to connect with elements that is foreign to them. For example, we have classes 24 festive drums, which is very um, Chinese, it's 24 festive drums. But all of students that enroll in that class are Malays and Indian. I'm not so sure that's Chinese, but majority are Malays and Indian. And also we always we have Chinese educator teaching Indian dance. We have Malay students learning Indian dance. So these are foreign to them. Of course, if they were to learn Malay dances, for Malay to learn Malay dances is normal to them. But when they learn something different, even though they know all Chinese dance, the fan dance, but they never get the opportunity to learn. So basically, definitely it will influence their creativity, something new opportunity. And I agree with Miss Theo mentioned about the mutual understanding. So whenever that you learn other races, cultures, then you have mutual understanding. You would understand not just the culture, but you also probably understand more about yourself and also the environment. Yeah,
I think not only that, actually. Well, when I see that, okay, yes,
Yes.
please, Chiseng.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Pu. Just want to add on, okay, because actually psychological research has demonstrated that exposure to different culture is beneficial to our creativity. Okay, for example, they found that living abroad, okay, can enhance our creativity. However, okay, the key component here is that when we live abroad or when we expose to different culture, we have to involve, okay, or embed in the culture. For example, we really have to learn about the uniqueness of the culture, their languages, okay, not just stay in a country or in a place. So if you ask how this happened, this is because when we expose to a different culture, we learn something new, okay, or we learn something that is different from our culture. For example, what Dr. Poon mentioned, the cultural differences. In Asians, maybe we focus more on the practical part, the usefulness. But when we go to the Western country, okay, because that how they appreciate the aesthetic component, that open our mind. So that will give us some new ideas, new perspective. Oh, actually, I can tackle this perspective. I can use this perspective to tackle my questions, which is correspond to what Ms. Theo mentioned just now. We flip over, we got a new perspective. So the key is that when in the different culture, we have to expose ourselves, learn it, integrate with that. That will sort of like expand our database. So therefore, we will have more information to utilize to combine our ideas together and come up something new and useful.
Yeah, I like the idea of one. Amina, would you like to
It's
go
okay.
first?
You go first. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to to add on. One more thing is about the Puan Amina's center talking about having different educators teaching the different dances or even song or drumming. I think this is something that when we approach the foreign things or foreign culture or foreign territory, we kind of like expand our mind. One thing, the other thing is we become alert because our body have the habitual movement. For example, Malay dance or even Chinese dance, we have the habitual movement. By introducing new or foreign steps, I need to be alert of the steps. This is very good to train the flexibility of the mind. And this, down the track, it will help to enhance the creativity of the individual. So this is a very interesting aspects that we can look into, or even from the evidence-based research aspect to try to research on. It's very interesting. And I find it because I move around a lot, and the alertness that I found is really helped me to become like more flexible, more alert to my environment or even to the language, to the cultures.
Now
Okay, go
you're
ahead.
far away from us as well, isn't it?
Okay,
Oh,
but close
okay.
to heart.
Okay, Amina, what is your take? I think you
So
want to share.
basically, it's what Miss Teh is supposed to, what Miss Teo mentioned just now is more to what I want to say, more or less the same. Is not just for us to have exposed to the foreign culture, but when we go to abroad, to overseas, then we tend to appreciate more of our cultures. And when we can showcase our cultures in outside of Malaysia, that's when we also learn our own more elements, more information, because you're going to represent what we know from our own cultures. And you can actually be creative to instill whatever the new steps, example like the dance, to make it modernized. Example like for us, if you know the angklung musical instruments, we instead of um, play the normal traditional music, Malay music. We have example Ed Sheeran's song, So when we play a modern song, it will attract more interest from the audience, and then not it's starting from the song. So basically, you creative enough to change the music to attract audience, and through that the audience learn more about the angklung and they get interest. Oh, how can I play this? When do you have the classes? Can I enroll the classes for my children? Which is great to us. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think not only that, as I just always emphasize that we also need to think about the multi ethnic origins in Malaysia. Those are the indigenous like the Dusun, the and the Iban, and also even the Portuguese settlement, the Serani, and also the Peranakan, Baba Nyonya, Chiti, and all those. So those are, I think there's a lot of things and comes together. So they'll be really, really rich actually. So definitely. Right. Let's take the last questions. I think this question should be addressed to all. So the question indicated from the audience: how has the pandemic affect the future rate of sustainability of livelihood? And if it's in a further way, how much are we behind? And should the future implementation be more stringent? Anyone want to take this? I think this is for all.
I think I'll start. Definitely the pandemic has definitely affect our sustainability of livelihood of our children, our beneficiaries, because currently we do have children that couldn't complete their classes because most of the classes were conducted online. So we have to be creative enough how to complete the classes during the pandemic, because we need to have a closure. We can't like, oh, we're just going to drag again and again and again. We tried our best to accommodate all the classes, the outstanding classes, but definitely in the future, we pandemic, I'm not so sure pandemic is like no one can expect the pandemic, right? But it opens up
They will be
creativity.
here to stay.
But the beauty of the pandemic, that's the beauty of the pandemic, is that me and my team, we get creative, like how to complete the classes, how to have a closure, how to complete the outstanding classes with limited time and resources. But I think in the future, we may have to do a hybrid classes, like both online and offline, because right now the exposure on online is higher, so we have to also implement more on the online classes. And again, with the fundings issue, we have our own challenges to get sponsorship for our underprivileged children. That is different topic, which we will probably need to get donation and grant, as long as people appreciate arts education, then we can have more funding and more donation.
Okay, thank you, Pon Amira. I think we also can talk about this in our different in the separate setting, because we are working this together. Okay, great. What about Chi Sing? Yes, let's listen to the psychologist.
All right, thank you. So this question actually looks a little bit tricky to me because I stand on the opposite side. Okay, in particular, okay, on the one hand, I would say that yes, the pandemic affected our sustainability of livelihood in the current standard. But on the other hand, the pandemic actually opens another door for our future sustainability of livelihood. Okay, this is somewhat similar to what Puan Amira mentioned just now. Is like when there is a risk, okay, we believe that there is also an opportunity. Right. So therefore, if you ask me whether it's affected us, yes, but at the same time, we also benefit from the pandemic. I believe from the news paper, okay, we got we read a lot of news how Malaysians, okay, they did something incredible, okay, to cope with the pandemic. Yeah.
Right, thank you, Chi Sing. What about you, Pi Ting?
Yeah, thank you. I think I would like to share from the perspective of mental health. I think a few months ago, one of the psychologists in US, I think he mentioned about cave syndrome, meaning like pandemic actually makes a lot of people trying to hide inside their house instead of coming out from the house to reach out to people. And this lead to a lot of mental health problems. For example, depression, suicidal rate increase a lot worldwide. Therefore, I just want to mention or address one thing is whether we suffer or for those who survive from a pandemic, they actually have the post-pandemic effect. For example, anxiety attack, which I personally, experienced with some of the colleagues who survived from the pandemic. Actually, feel very like feel like they are quite compressed in the space, and they don't feel like they can break through this compressed space to have a fresh air for their emotional well-being. So they just break down in that, in the office space, or even they couldn't get out from house to get grocery. So that is properly, this is something we might need to seriously look into, or even pump a lot of funding into this aspect to support or to research on the mental health issue of post-pandemic, because we can see that mental health can be a problem in the future to sustain the livelihood. So this is something that we might need to consider and think a bit further down the track to proper plan the mental health plan for the for Malaysia and for a lot of people who needs the help. That is my little view on this aspect.
All right, thank you. Thanks for all these response to the registered questions. I think we have almost come to an end for that. So great, thank you very much. So first of all, I'd like to thank all the esteemed panels. Indeed, the wonderful audience who had clearly tuned in and posted great questions. Like those are the great questions that we just we had a lot of share for that. I think I'm going to summarize the conversation. So despite the discussion on urban creativity, further research is needed to tackle such issue as the Sustainable Livelihood Framework has also been criticized for failing to take power dynamics into consideration. It relates to gender, for example. Again, while such dynamics are included in the framework, in practice they have been neglected. In particular, social capital has often been seen as simply a good thing, whereas in reality, social networks can be both inclusive and exclusive. The weakest and the most vulnerable excluded. They also often involve hierarchical and cohesive relationship that limit options to those at the lower levels. And even when relationships are more horizontal than vertical, the application that reciprocal relationship involved can be onerous. So with that, thank you so much to Puan Wan Amina Wan Sufian, General Manager at PKK Tuanku Bainun Creative Center for Children Malaysia.
You're welcome, and thank you again, Dr. Stephen and team, for inviting me for these sessions. Sorry for the hiccups earlier.
No worry.
It's a very wonderful session, and thank you again to APU for arranging this session for everyone.
Thank you. And also thank you so much to Ms. Teo Pitin, the registered art therapist and founder from the Art Therapy Academy ATA Malaysia.
Thank you everyone, and thank you for ACU to invite me. It's an honor, and I learned a lot from Dr. Tan and Puan Amina, and I would like to see you, when I'm in KL, to see what we can work together.
We are in the loop now.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And also, thank you so much to Dr. Tanji Singh, Associate Professor of the Department of Psychology and Counseling, University Tunku Abdul Rahman, Utah, Malaysia.
All right, thank you, Dr. Poon and his team, as well as the APU for the opportunity. And I would also like to take this opportunity, to emphasize that if you need help, it is okay to feel not okay. So if you need help, feel free to seek professional help. All right, thank you, Dr. Poon.
Thank you. So I couldn't close this off any better. So I will simply just say thank you, each one of you. This has been such a fascinating conversation and wonderful. I really appreciate it. Love hearing each of your good advice. This is for everyone. And so thank you, and grateful for you to make time for this. And for you to know that everyone to just forth and do this work. So thank you all. Take care of yourself. Take time when you are exhausted, when things happen that you didn't expect. So thank you all. ISUC Plaza series organized by Integrated Sustainability and Urban Creativity Center, ISUC, from Asia Pacific University and Technology and Innovation APU Malaysia. Till then, take care and each other. Have a wonderful evening. For those who are celebrating Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and Happy New Year. We all good wishes for 2022. That's the end of the first season in 2021. I see you next year. Stay safe and sane too. Good night.
Thank you, everyone.